Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of SEC State of Mind presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Taylor Davis, joined by Jason Campbell, and the gifts keep on giving, people. I told you we had more guests in the works, and we aren't liars here on SEC State of Mind. Razorback fans, this one's for you. We've got head coach at the University of Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield. Coach, welcome to the show. Welcome to the SEC.
Yeah, thrilled to be here on with you guys and thrilled to be in the SEC. So ready to get this thing started. It's been a fun 6 months, but excited to be joining you guys today.
Fun and I would imagine chaotic a little bit. I mean, it certainly felt that way for us on the media side. So I can only imagine what that period of time was like. And obviously you were at Memphis for what feels like an eternity in this version of college football and making this jump into the SEC. And it felt like that footprint, the fit, the culture, the philosophy, it all really meshed with what I know about you as a head coach. So let's just start there. What ultimately kind of made Arkansas and Fayetteville the right fit for you?
For sure. I think, right, everybody looks at my time at Memphis and, well, you were there really 10 years. And I think that's part of it is that's so strange to hear in college football, especially at that level. But I think, one, being committed originally to the university, and then ultimately, hey, this is where I'm going to make headway. And we had a lot of success there. Give a lot of credit to a lot of great coaches and assistants I was able to work with. And then ultimately for me, it was like, am I going to ever leave this job? It's got to be for the right fit for me.
Yeah.
Right. And then where it was a mutual deal, where it felt like a place that we could go and fully imprint, as I talked to some teams this off season, during the season, and people were calling about jobs. There were certain jobs that were, hey, we can do this and this, but then, hey, this is how we want to run things. And the reality of it is, I think, having 6 years being a head coach, I wanted to go to a place where we can really fully invest ourselves. And so Arkansas is one of those places, one with a great history, a deep-rooted history, great traditions. Obviously, I understood the footprint. Memphis is on the edge of Arkansas. I've recruited the heck out of Little Rock, West Memphis, all the parts. And then ultimately a place that just needed somebody that's going to come in and be completely hands-on, right? I mean, from a fundraising standpoint, X's and O's, leadership, getting into the community. And a lot of these programs, right, you take over some of these SEC teams. Well, here you go. Here's your pot of money. Here's the best facilities. Here's all these things. This place is capable of doing those things, but we had found ourselves digging a hole, and that was attractive. It was a blue-collar type job and a state of people that loved the Razorbacks, and ultimately this is where we decided it was a great fit for everybody.
Yeah, I think it was an awesome fit. By the way, tell Darren McFadden when you see him that I said hello. We his Oakland Raider teammates, great dude, man. I say this though, like, being at Memphis for all those years, and Mike Norvell was there, and then you got the interim job, and then you went right into it, and just didn't miss. And all about the recruiting realms. You talk about from Memphis and that Tennessee area over to Arkansas. Well, you look at the SEC as a whole, it's 3 coaches that come from the American Conference this past year to the SEC, Coach Golish, Coach Summerall, and then yourself, right? So that goes to show you how strong that conference was.
Yeah.
And when you talk about from a competition level, and now you guys face off in the SEC. Are you excited, when you look across the field and you see each other pre-games, just like, hey, man, like all 3 of you are young guys, for the most part, you're young guys. And now you're here coaching at the pinnacle.
For sure. Listen, I got a lot of respect for those guys. I got a lot of respect for all the coaches in the SEC, obviously, but certainly guys I've coached against, right? Obviously with Golish 3 years when he was at South Florida, going against him, and then Summerall at Tulane. And they were all great battles. And so I got a lot of respect for them. So there's that familiarity, obviously, and to be in this thing, I am the oldest of the 3, right? And of all the new SEC coaches, I'm the oldest that joined the group. And I look around and I said, I used to be the young head coach, and now, Will's even younger than all of us, Stein, and I'm sitting there saying, man, what happened real quick? It used to be, okay, now you look up and say, man, I'm in the median, if not towards the higher end of the older coaches, which is a crazy thing. But no, it's exciting. I think we're going to see a newer brand. Obviously, respect to the coaches that were in the league last year. They're no longer part of it. Obviously, they had their successes at some point, but just the familiarity, and it kind of shows you the competition. Ultra aggressive coaches coming into this thing and trying to do their best for each university.
I think it's so cool that that door opened for all of you respectively the same year. And I mean, mentioning that South Florida Memphis game last year, Coach Golish came on the show and actually pointed out that all of his games that I've been on the call for were losses for him. But I guess for you, I don't have that trend because that fourth quarter comeback in Memphis was a special one. So pretty cool that all of you are going to be facing off in a conference like this. You mentioned being a young coach, and I actually wanted to talk a little bit about your story because you were a young coach when you first started out, 18 years old, cutting your teeth in this whole realm. Obviously at the high school level, you've coached D3, obviously the Memphis stop. I mean, how has all of your various stops, experiences dating all the way back to when you were an 18-year-old kid with a dream like this prepared you for this moment as you take over a program like Arkansas?
Yeah. First off, Taylor, that means you're going to have to be on the sideline for our game versus Auburn this year. That's just it.
I'll make it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was tough.
Let's go and put it on there, Jason. Sorry, bud. She's got a good record with her. You know,
it's true.
There you go.
It's happening. All right, we'll put it in print. We'll call ESPN when we get off.
There we go.
Call the SBC network. It's happening. All that being said, yeah, listen, so fortunate, right? Neck injury, ended my career. And at that time, you sit there and say, man, this is always hoped. And I was never going to play anywhere big time. But the injury ultimately led me to get into coaching. And spring of my senior year of high school, I was afforded the opportunity to coach the defensive line at my high school, and then kind of got into a small college, Division III, and got my degree. But I did stop going to college for a little bit so I could be a position coach. And then ultimately just kind of moved my way up from a grad assistant to a bad head high school coach a long time ago in Georgia, to FCS, to back to D1, to the NFL for 7 years, and being committed and loyal to Memphis, not only just as an assistant but as a head coach, and then ultimately here in the SEC at Arkansas. And so I think a lot of young head coaches and a lot of young coaches in general talk to me like, well, how was it done? And everybody's path is different, right? There's some people with famous dads that all of a sudden find themselves, immediately in the NFL and stuck. And ultimately I just put my head down and said, okay, where can I do and where can I be where my feet are and have success and ultimately make the program better? And like if you sat there and said 28 years ago that, hey, you're going to be the head coach at Arkansas, I'd say, no way, maybe a D2 school. But I think just putting my head down and working, and again, giving credit to some of those people that gave me opportunities along the way. And hopefully every time I left a program, hopefully made it a little bit better.
Okay. So sorry, Jay. I have a follow-up on that. I totally just cut you off, but it just made me think, being where your feet are, being in the now, I heard that you have changed or gotten rid of majority of the clocks in the building. You're smart. You know exactly what I'm about to ask, but it immediately made me think of this, that the clocks in the facility, the hands point to now, that it's just, if anyone asks what time it is, it's right now. Talk to me a little bit about that philosophy, because it sounds like it kind of directly ties into what your career has taught you.
Yeah, I think it's not corny. Some people say, oh, that seems like coach speak and stupid. I think a lot of players actually appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
We're structured, we're disciplined. But I want the guys to understand, right? We have to have a sense of urgency in everything we do, right? We're dealing with 17 to 24-year-olds. And I think ultimately them to understand whether it's right, hey, there's a paper that's due on Sunday at midnight. We're not waiting until Sunday at 10 o'clock. It's go and do it right now, right? Hey, I want to wait and play as a redshirt sophomore. No, I got to make the gains right now, studying the plays, make sure I'm on top of those things. We found more guys getting into the building earlier times to take care of their body. So just the time being now and having that sense of urgency in everything we do. Yeah. The easiest thing to do is procrastinate. And I think just no different, right? Like I tell all of our coaches and everybody in our program, right? I don't care if you're the janitor, you're a grad assistant, you're a backup long snapper, but everybody that's involved in our program, I said, pretend like you're the head coach and you're going to be the head coach at Arkansas for 10 years. If you go about your business every single day, like that's your mindset, right? You're picking up the trash. You're making sure things are detailed. You're excited about coming to work because everything you truly feel responsible for the success of the program, and having that sense of urgency, feeling like, hey, the time is now. Ultimately, I think it's worked not only throughout my career, but certainly here at Arkansas, we're going to continue to push that.
I love that. Jay, that sounds like something you preach all the time.
Yeah, I always talk about eliminate procrastination. Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. You're on time, you're late. That's how we always let's say, like if practice starts at 9, you need to be there at 8:50, right? So you're ready to go at 9:00. Coach, you need to go back to your high school principal and tell him that he didn't give you enough talent because your high school record was 1-9, which is head coaching job. You're 50-24. So tell him it wasn't the coach, it was the talent that he didn't give.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So, everything. But you're a guy that started out coaching in the interior. You talked about coaching the D line, but you're an O-line guy, and everything. Talk about your interior, and that everything starts up front. If you want to win in the SEC, on both sides of the ball, D-line, O-line, in those trenches where it has to get done. How are you feeling about your O-line, D-line?
Yeah, I think it always starts up front. I've coached every position. I mean, a long time ago, Jason, in Jacksonville University, maybe before you were born, I was a quarterbacks coach. So been all over. But yeah, ultimately, I think especially in this conference, it has to start up front. We all know the importance of having strength at the O-line and D-line. Obviously, there's programs that have 330 across the board. We may not be that big, but I think that's important. And I think starting with the defense line, do you have the depth, the ability to go out there and because it's going to end up being a long season and playing well through November and hopefully even further than that. But the depth on D lines is so important, as we've seen in this conference, and just watching film, whether it's getting a pass rush or being able to stop the run. Those things are going to be critical factors. Obviously, if you do it up front, that's huge. And then ultimately, right, offensive line play. And it doesn't mean when people think about, hey, good offensive line play, does that mean being able to line the ball, run up and run the ball down people's throat, being able to protect the quarterback? All of those things go hand in hand. But I think being able to have a smart offensive line that has enough athleticism that can give you a variety of schemes, I think that's huge. And so that's kind of how we've built it. We've got some guys that played some good amount of football here. And then we've got a bunch of young guys. And I think as we come in, I kind of look at this as really had a month to build the roster, 48 hours to sign some high school kids and then a month to build the roster. I said, man, there's not enough fundraising that can be done to be able to build the roster the way. But ultimately, we're happy with where we're at, but we've got a lot of work to continue to do. But you're ultimately right. It does start up front, Jason.
Oh, yeah. And that depth is something that we end up talking about season long. So I totally hear you there. Let's go behind that front. Let's talk quarterback position. I'm kind of surprised Jay didn't start there as our resident QB, but he gives love to the guys up front, as he should. But let's talk about what you've seen so far, especially with spring ball that concluded a little bit ago. Obviously, you guys have KJ Jackson and AJ Hill with you there, who was at Memphis. I remember you telling us last year that he kind of reminded you of Seth Hennigan, who obviously had an incredible career at Memphis. And you spoke very highly of his throw ability, his demeanor. You said on his official visit, all he wanted to talk was ball. And you love players like that in this day and age. But KJ Jackson obviously has some experience playing there and quite the scrambler, and the run ability jumps off the page at you. So as you continue with summer and look for those guys to continue to develop, what have you seen out of both of them?
Yeah, it's easy. The KJ-AJ battle, right?
Right.
AJ, right. It's very easy for everybody to remember. Listen, both young men, it's interesting because not many teams in the country have a quarterback battle where the guys are, I think our entire quarterback roster is under the age of 20 with one exception. I mean, we got, speaking of youth. So some people say, is that a good thing? I said, well, yeah, bodes well for long-term.
There you go.
It keeps me up at night, but that's okay. The cupboard's not bare, though. Both guys are ultra talented. I think to hit on a point, Taylor, like you said, they both love football, which is huge, right? They're film junkies. They're intelligent. They work their tails off in order to put our program, especially the offense, in the right direction. I think that's the biggest thing. So throughout spring, we got to see them both make throws. You sit there and say, man, this guy can be a starting quarterback in the SEC. Wow. And then you saw some other things. Okay, hey, this is where you need to work on. And so what we did is really right when spring ended, I said, okay, here's kind of your assignment going into OTAs. We need to see this get fixed. They both have an understanding of the offense. Okay, we got to master this in June in the summer access periods. July, we got to see now who can truly start to take the reins, leadership. And then, we'll probably get through halfway through training camp before making that decision. It's, some of these coaches are going to keep it close to the vest and until the coin toss. Ultimately, we're going to need somebody to get the majority of the reps with the ones and get a feel for it. But it's unique. They both care about each other. I've been part of quarterback battles where they hate each other and they don't talk. These guys support each other. And it's kind of great because either way we go, we feel very, very confident in who's going to be our trigger man.
That's great.
You always got to have two, right? Because it's such a long season. You look at the schedule and everything. It's like I always break it up into 4 parts. When you're talking about a 12-game schedule, the first 3 quarters, and everything. So when it comes to quarterback position, I always say it's hard to say who's going to do what when you don't have experience. All right. So the only experience you can see is what you do in a ball game. And in practice and spring and everything, I always tell the guys when I sit and talk to them, I say, well, yeah, I see what you did before you got hit. Like I really don't know how you're going to respond until you're actually in a game like atmosphere. So for these guys to be battling it out and pushing each other, that's a great thing, right? It's a great problem to have. Fans just have to be patient to understand still, though, they still got to have time to develop and get experience, right? So even when you go out there the first game, hey, both guys may get reps. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to give these guys an opportunity to see who's going to take the bull by the horn, who's going to really adapt. Because some guys are practice players, some guys are gamers, right? You don't know until you get there. So I think you're doing the right thing, Coach, by, like you say, you go into OTAs, you go into camp, and then, of course, maybe 2 weeks into it, you hold it close to the vest, but you got to start building some chemistry as well. So, it's always a tough thing. People ask me about the quarterback position. I say, man, it's tough because it's hard to answer the call until you're in those situations in the game and you see how a kid responds. So,
no question.
That's just where it's at. But just being in this conference, when you look at it from top to bottom, it's a competitive conference. Like every weekend, somebody can be beat. Like it's not the days of where you can stack D lines or stack O lines, and here comes the first group off the field, and boom, here comes the second group that looks like starters. Because of the NIL space and revenue space, a lot of guys in recruiting are like, hey, I don't want to go sit for a year here. I'm gonna go to another school. So now it's becoming an even more like playing field in college football. When you just think about this conference as a whole, do you break it up into quarters when you look at like, hey, we got to win the first quarter, second quarter, and those type of things when you look at it just to try to help the young guys?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, you're exactly right. I mean, I think everybody certainly understands the depth of this conference, the gauntlet, the challenges that come with it. But, I'm going to be the optimist, right, and say, hey, they're great opportunities. And, and I think I've been in this thing long enough now where it's just, especially with dealing with so many newcomers, right? I think that's part of it, right? With the transfers, guys have been part of the unfortunate losing that has occurred here, recent history. It's just, let's focus one game at a time. When I first got here, they had every team of the opponents, and I saw the Memphis logo on there. I said, man, after that game and then after the Notre Dame game, you had to look at this long gauntlet. And a lot of players said, yeah, we hated looking down and saying we have this many more games, especially when there's a head coach change midseason. So for us, it's going to be a one game at a time mindset, right? And the most important one is the first one. And then we put our head down, right? I mean, we still got to go play at Utah. Obviously, that's going to be a heck of a challenge. And then, Georgia, the SEC home opener. So I think like if you get too far ahead of your skis and say, okay, hey, this, no, let's just focus on being the best we can game one. And seeing, and I think also we're going to continue to learn, right? You mentioned the quarterback play. Like, okay, what are we capable of? What's it really look like? Yes, we're going to have a great understanding of 90% of our team come training camp, but there's going to be situations. There's going to be something that's going to happen to a game where say, ooh, that guy balled out, or this guy is really capable of doing this. So I think the biggest thing, and it's really helped me throughout my career, is just, and our players, let's just have the blinders on. Let's focus one game at a time. And we'll look up at the end of the regular season and see what shakes out.
One thing that Arkansas has always been kind of my not so hidden secret in the SEC. Fayetteville's incredible. I mean, like from facility, I'm not just blowing smoke like that. I genuinely tell people, if you are looking to go to an SEC road game, Arkansas should be on your list. It is such a fun place. I mean, all the sports. I cover gymnastics, baseball. It's all great. When you took this over and you kind of evaluated it from a holistic perspective, because then obviously the team is its own entity that you then had to build, like you said, with the roster. What was kind of your perception of, okay, these are my orders of business in terms of I am at a place that has every reason to be toward the top of its game. Here are the priorities of mine to help get it there.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I'd understand a little bit of Arkansas, obviously coached against them, but I had no idea what Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas was truly all about. So let me hit on that first, right? This has got to be a recruiting pitch, right?
There you go.
This region is the 9th fastest growing region in the entire country. We think about that. People are like, wait,
Wow.
Northwest Arkansas is,
Yeah.
we got Rogers, we got Bentonville. So you have Fayetteville that U.S. News and World Report just voted for the 10th or 11th straight year as the best SEC city. So you sit there and say, okay, this is a beautiful, safe, amazing place right up on the hill. So, you get to see that. Then ultimately, okay, what about the rest of the area, right? Walmart headquarters, Tyson, right? J.B. Hunt. I mean, you think about all these major corporations here. And so the guys have other opportunities. Some of these other SEC towns, if it doesn't work out, you're going to work at Jim's Tire and Auto, which is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But here we have opportunities for the guys when it's all said and done. So you have this great industry around here. And so this entire place has been special. And the people, this is it in the state. People love it.
Yeah.
And so really the order of things when I got here was, okay, putting together the roster, right? And putting together the staff. And then now let's call it what it is. We've hit the ground running. We've just been so fortunate to now re-engage with some donors that may have not been a part of this thing. Because ultimately there's a reason I'm here, right? And there's things that need to occur at a higher level holistically to do it, right? We have a top 20 basketball program, top 20 golf, top 20 softball, top 20 gymnastics, top 20 baseball. All these other sports have had so much success. Yeah. Well, what's going on with football? Why have they only had one Power 4 home win in 3 years? And so you dig deeper and say, okay, what is it? We set a team GPA record for highest academic GPA and program history, right? More community service hours. So I'm continue to peel back the onion. What else do we need to do in order to get our guys? First off, it's been the buy-in. All right. The sense of urgency, using the term now. And then ultimately, let me go out and engage some of these donors, because we're going to have to build this thing. Obviously, the 26 roster set. How can we now continue to build this thing, hopefully with a lot of our current players, and going out there and find the best fits for us as we continue to progress and build this thing back?
Yeah. Like I said, you're creating identity, right? Like before you do anything, it has to be an identity. And I think that's exactly what you're doing with this team. You talk about the now, when you look at the clocks, when you talk about everything that you do from GPA to schoolwork, it's all about being where your feet are, which Taylor said earlier, like just the now, right? And then you talk about the identity, because like I tell you, you can't be great, if you're in many different places mentally. You have to be present. So I like what you're doing, Coach. And you talk about, being in Arkansas. Now, Memphis had good barbecue, and I heard you a barbecue guy. Memphis got good barbecue, but Arkansas is supposed to have a touch above in barbecue. Have you found a spot yet?
Well, first off, I can't have the Memphis fans mad at me by saying I can't sit there and compare. But I'm in Arkansas now. And speaking of that, right, like I've been on this thing called the Tomorrow Diet. And so sometimes I have to look at the now clock, because like I've been on the Tomorrow Diet for 20 years. I'm going to start my diet tomorrow, right? Like last night I ordered a milkshake in bed at 9 o'clock, and I said, you know what? I need to start my diet tomorrow. The now. And unfortunately, there's so many good food spots. Well, fortunate or unfortunate, it's not good for my waistline.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, there's some great barbecue. I gotta be careful who our sponsors are, but I'll go and throw Wright's Barbecue out here locally. Jordan and his crew have done a great job. I think I've eaten everything on the menu multiple times. A ton of great food spots around here. So it's been fun, not only in this community, but the surrounding Northwest Arkansas areas.
But don't worry about your waistline after your vacation. Go enjoy your vacation first, then come back and worry about your belt line. Yeah.
I do know that you give up sugar during football season, so you tend to it then.
Yeah. I'm the one guy, right? I'm opposite, right? Like beach season, I've got the elastic waistband on, and then come December, like you finally see my abs. I've got a back, so I need to get on if I can't. So during the season, it's the discipline, the no sugar, no alcohol, no social media. I put the blinders on. Then I go off the rails. At this time of year.
To be expected.
I need to do that during season, because it is hard for me during season. But my last one, Coach, I'll let Taylor take it. Your family is involved, right? You got a young family. Like, how hard is it to be able to just interact with your family, and how have they enjoyed the transition?
Yeah, first off, when looking at jobs, when other places came calling, the number one thing I identified was it a place I wanted to raise my daughters. I've got young identical twin girls, and very young. And so it was my next step was going to be my last one. And so it has to make sure it's a safe, great place to raise them. And that was important. It was something I looked into as I was considering things, and whether it was to stay in Memphis or to move on. And Fayetteville is obviously a great place to raise a family. And I think that's important. And, I always hear coaches all the time, listen, we all work the 100-hour work weeks, right? I mean, there's been times I've slept in my office. There's those things that, but ultimately I'm going to find a way to see them, right? Whether it's they pull up to the side of the house and I get to run the side of the office and I run out and give the girls a quick kiss, or they're out at practice and they're getting strolled around or walking around, and whether it's before or after, or even, at some point, just making sure that they know I'm there and that I'm present, and then finding time, right? You give up a lot of hobbies when you have a young family. So, not a whole lot of golf right now for me in the off season. It's really football and family. And I'm blessed that they're, my wife does a great job of making them, interactive, and that I can be a present father as much as I can. And I understand trying to weigh it both, and the responsibilities of being the head coach here, but also the responsibilities of being a great father.
That's awesome. Well said.
Awesome.
Well, my last one, just for our Razorback listener fans, which I do have a lot of Arkansas friends here in Nashville. There's actually quite a strong footprint here in Nashville as well. And they were like, I asked them, what's your curiosity level right now? What are you curious about? And they were like, well, I just feel like I don't know so many of these guys. I mean, you've got 60 new guys on this roster, which is nothing new for you. That Memphis team last year had 78 new players. I remember talking to you about that last year. But what have you learned thus far about the group that will be taking the field in fall in terms of potential strengths that you are seeing before August gets here and ball is played?
Yeah, Taylor, I think the biggest thing is, right, for this group, whether it's returners or new guys, is they want to prove themselves. And I think it's whether it's the chip on the shoulder. Listen, they all hear everything. They understand what happened here in the past. And I think there's a hunger to show improvement, right? And everybody says, well, what does that mean as far as wins and losses? And in reality, I just tell the guys, let's go out there and show that we're different, right? Let's go show people who we are. And I don't care what people say about me. I've had a pretty darn good record against some of these other coaches in the SEC now. It is what it is. And so ultimately, I want our players to feel that too. Like, we are, the way we work, the way we train, the effort's got to be better. Obviously, even here, and not to harp on the past, right? The ball security's been an issue, discipline football. And so, like, how do we be really good at those controllable things? And I think the players have bought into it and say, okay, hey, we are. And it's been great, because we talked earlier about the quarterbacks loving ball. These guys love being around each other. They love football. They love coming into the building and spending time with us. And to me, as a head coach, that's, as you're building a culture, as you're creating what you ultimately want your program and team to look like, and to be a model of consistency, right? We see a lot of these programs that constantly are doing this. How do we get this thing and build it for a long-term sustainable future of a lot of success? And the players have bought in. I'm excited for the fans to see, hey, kind of, this is the way we do things. This is what we're all about. And I think they'll be pleasantly surprised.
That's awesome. Well, I am very excited, and hopefully I'll be on the call for at least one of them this season. Coach Silverfield, thank you so much again for coming on and chatting with Jay and I today. Enjoy your summer as best you can. I know truly a coach's job is never done, but try and enjoy the summer as best you can. And we can't wait to see what you guys do this fall.
Appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to seeing you at some point. Y'all have a good one. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Coming on, and wish you the best this year.
Thank you.